you guys get to spend the next hour and a half with us.
Fireside chats.
I don't know if you guys should run or be happy about this.
What is up with this? Look, you're already trying to like posture and show your Jordans. Like, ooh, don't look at my shoes.
Go back and look at every show we've done.
You say like this?
And either my foot is like that or my foot is like that.
Okay.
Or maybe like this. It'll shift.
We have our producer back.
We do, and it's a good thing we have our producer back.
He just traveled across the country for no reason. Who does that?
Who does that? Not a week, for 2 weeks.
This dude was just gone taking pictures.
Go follow his Instagram, and you'll see all the dumb stuff he did. Going to Nashville and going to the Washington Monument and New York City and West Point.
I'm trying to be more like my boy Brandon. You inspired me, man. You went on your 12-day road trip?
Yeah, something like that. But I didn't see the cool stuff.
Later, I went on mine. It was cool. Yeah, man, checking out the East Coast. This is my first time being to a lot of those places. I went with my boy Noah. We did the math, and it was crazy. We ended up driving like over 3,300 miles, 54 hours through 15 states. It was incredible.
Now, why did you go?
Because he just didn't want to. So he got hired at General Electrics.
Okay.
He was coming from San Diego, and he had to drive all the way, to Boston, Massachusetts. And he was like, dude, I don't want to take the drive, by myself. He's like, do you want to come? And I was like,
co-pilot.
Let's go.
That's a better friend. I wouldn't do
sweetest
that
thing
for
I've
either
ever
of you.
heard.
Yeah.
It was and perfect timing too. I had my knee surgery in at the end of December, so I'm still recovering from that. So it's not like I was really missing out on training or anything. So schedule wise, timing wise, it was perfect.
Did you fly back or you drove back?
Yeah, no, I flew back.
Okay.
Flew back. Yeah, I got back last night.
If I move to Florida, which eventually I'll do,
okay,
I will fly there and I will let Kindle and the kids drive.
back and drive up.
Yeah.
I'll meet you on the other side.
Yeah, I got stuff to do here. I'll wrap this up over here. I'll meet you guys out there. That's a thing. Man, you had a good week last week. Bets, you killed it.
Yeah,
You
personally,
slayed
that
the
was
dragon.
a good week that I really needed. And I was actually in California, so I couldn't legally bet as much as I wanted to. And it probably stopped me from 5,000, 10,000 or more.
Yeah, good fights last week. This week, it's a weird card.
Yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. I couldn't get into tape study this week.
Dude, it was brutal.
So you can't listen to anything I say because these are just generic thoughts. And I don't like this week.
Yeah, I struggled to get through tape study, but I actually did because there was a lot of people on here who I didn't know at all. It just I was like, who the hell are these people? And it was painful to watch. A lot of them were such sloppy fighters or people I didn't know, people I didn't care about. I was up. I did a little bit on Sunday, a little bit on Monday. This is a late podcast. It's already Wednesday, so it's not going to get up to Wednesday night or Thursday morning. I just could not get into it. Last night I was up till 11:30. I actually watched like 3 or 4 hours of tape last night. It was brutal. It was brutal. I could not get through it. But there's actually, even before we get going on that, I hate MMA right now. I hate the state of our entire sport.
Why?
We were talking about a little bit of this beforehand. Is our sport just shrunk? I mean, if it was at 100%, I don't know, a month ago, it's at 30% now. Between the Contender Series and then PFL buying Bellator and then shriveling that up, there are no fights. There's all of these. Contender Series ruined MMA as a whole as it is, because now on the regional scene, nobody gets actually decent fights. It's all everyone wants these like 1 in 20 fighters so they can get 5-0 to go to Contender. Then they get to Contender, they win, they get to the UFC. They're not ready for the UFC because they've never fought anybody. And so then they wash out. And so then all of these regional fights, like going to LFA or something, it's either fighting guys who are 10-0. That's the only for 1,000 and 1,000.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to do that because you're like, dude, I could fight that guy in Contender for 5,000 and 5,000. Then
and a shot at the UFC.
Yeah. Then if you're not getting that guy, you're getting 3 Contender UFC washouts. So there's no way to build fights, to build records, to do stuff on that local regional scene because everybody is just holding out for the Contender. And then all of these guys, then as a fan, we're getting all these Contender fighters who aren't ready for the UFC for the most part. There are a few who are, but most of them aren't. The fighters as a coach just want to get to 5, 6, 7-0 to get to Contender. So they don't even want to take tough fights to do it. So it's weird there. Then as a fan watching the UFC, we're watching all of these fights of guys who should not be at that level yet, and they don't look good. And then now the most recent thing is the PFL bought Bellator. Bellator and the PFL, whoever you want to call it, just released 100 fighters. A lot of those guys, some of my guys included, make really good money in Bellator. And now where are they going to go? The UFC, if they're coming off a loss, the UFC won't take them. The UFC isn't going to pay them the money that they were going to make anyway. Now PFL and Bellator are one, so there's not even an alternative there.
It's been really weird not having any Bellator events.
Right? It's strange. And now the only other place for guys to make money, even you go to the UFC, you're making 12 and 12, and that's not realistic for some of these guys who are in Bellator or PFL. They can't go to those shows. Are you going to go back to LFA and CFFC for 1,000 and 1,000 fighting tough 22-year-olds? And then the only other option now that weirdly, what is kind of saving people's careers is non-MMA. Karate
bare
combat.
knuckle.
Yeah, karate combat, bare knuckle MMA. And now that's kind of, but then that doesn't even go on your record to get you back to where you want to go. So it's a weird spot where we're in terms of the fight reality right now.
Well, damn, I'm depressed now. Honestly, there's a lot more fights overseas. I think like Octagon, Cage Warriors. There's a lot more fights to be had overseas, but you're right. There is still some tough fights. It is.
There
tough.
used to be regional shows that would try to build up where you could make, you're not making UFC money, but you're making 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5, 10 and 10, that were these high level regionals. That doesn't exist. You main event LFA, CFFC, Fury, 1,500 and 1,500 to fight guys who are in the UFC or.
Yeah, it's tougher fights.
It's a weird landscape. So anyway, that's my rant. FMMA right now. It's
well, great. Let's get into a whole podcast about MMA.
Let's do it. First fight of the night, Daniel Marcos and Arichi Lang.
AQ the boy.
AQ has trained with us for a while now. Him, Haley Alatong, and then Mahashate, both of them will be fighting soon. AQ, all I'm going to say about him is, first of all, I love him, but he will always go up to you and he will say to me, to you, he'll go, "Oh, handsome." Handsome.
He never said that shit to me.
Handsome.
He never said that shit to me.
And then he'll go up to like Roman and he'll like grab his butt and go, "Bubble." That's it. That's what you get. AQ for the all the awesomeness and all of the
he's
land.
Still to this day, like, we'll just sit there and then like just look at me and just go. And then I'm his partner for the rest of the day. He's so sweet.
That's how AQ does it. And then he'll try and take your head. He'll be like super nice and then he'll try and kill you.
Somehow he like loves me.
He's the best. All three of them, all of the Chinese Mongolians, the nicest, most respectful, fun humans on the planet. And they train every training session everywhere they can. They're just awesome. Anyway, you guys know the rule. We train with them. That's that. Let's get into our first actual fight of the night. Haidir Amil and Fernie Garcia. Amil is -190. Fernie is +165. Short notice fight. Fernie going up a weight class. So, all right. So let's complain more.
Okay.
I'm in a complaining mood today.
You're gonna complain about Fernie.
I'm going to complain about Fernie. And what am I going to complain about?
That he won't fight your guys.
No. I'm going to complain. Fernie is 0-3 in the UFC.
Yes.
And we have our fellow producer here who was cut after a 155-pound loss, his first fight up, in a fight of the night type of performance.
Great fight.
And they're letting guys like this get 3 losses in a row in a fourth, but they don't let Camuela, who is actually, first of all, the Damon Jackson fight, fuck you, Camuela, you won't talk about this, but he had the flu and was like deathly sick and was like hot, cold sweats for 3 days after that fight. He never should have fought. Asshole didn't tell us that he felt like shit. Fought Makwan Americani on short notice, won that fight, lost to Damon. And then he goes up and fights up a weight class in a phenomenal performance against Rybovich. Like, come on. Like, I don't know. But they're giving guys like Fernie, who has been non-competitive in all of his fights.
But I don't know if this is peeking behind the curtain a little bit, but there's been times before when you said the UFC basically says, hey, you're taking this fight, or you're cut. And I think that's maybe where he's in a tough spot because he is a good enough fighter to have competitive fights, but didn't win all the fights. Whereas Fernie's a guy that they look at, oh, okay, we can give somebody an introduction, a win.
Absolutely. They're keeping him on the roster for this reason.
Yeah.
So he can
Now, do you think this is one of those situations where the UFC said, hey, you need to take this short notice fight up a weight class or we're cutting you?
No, I bet you he was 0-3. They were about to cut him. And then Safe was probably like, hey, just don't cut him. We'll leave him on the roster. We'll do a short notice fight for you, last minute type of stuff. Or honestly, it's actually like we've had interactions with Sean before in the UFC where they actually were meaning to cut somebody and didn't realize that they didn't. And then we've talked to them like, hey, when is so-and-so going to fight? And they're like, oh shit, I thought he was cut. And we're like, hey, just leave him on. We'll take a short notice fight. What do you need? And so
this is a multi-billion-dollar company, by the way. Just completely forgetting about people.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
So,
well,
and not Sean necessarily, but the UFC in general. Somebody gets lost, like, oh, we expected to, cut somebody, and they just got lost in the shuffle. So, anyway, best thing about Fernie Garcia is he's hard to finish, and he just won't die. Like, I actually like his takedown defense, not in his last fight against Rinya. That dude is just on another level. Yeah. Like, come on. But he actually even stopped some of his shots and did a lot of the right stuff. And Rinya was like, all right, I'm pulling out the atomic. We're going nuclear option. We're launching you and going. But out on the cage, when he's fresh, he defends stuff well. He has that weird, like, go look at a horse who's got something in their horseshoe or has something stuck on their foot. And you'll see him kind of like kick up as they walk. It's like uncomfortable. That's what Fernie Garcia does in his stance. He's there and he like kind of just naturally brings that heel to his butt as if he's checking a calf kick, but nobody's throwing a calf kick. His boxing it's not the worst. It's just nothing special. But he's just there. He won't die. And he actually does a decent job if he can get the back or get on top. He's not the worst. The thing is that Amil, first of all, he's going up a weight class. It's short notice. And Amil, it's weird. I like this guy. He reminds me of Hunter Azure, our guy. He is just tough, in your face, won't die. And you could tell that he's tired, but just doesn't care. He just fights through it.
Yeah, he's ready to drown with you.
He's just going. He catches kicks well. Honestly, that's his best takedown is catching kicks. Not going to do too much here because Fernie doesn't kick a lot. But he's just in your face, swinging, going. Sometimes he's just marching forward too much without throwing. He'll get hit with stuff on the way in. But the other thing I like about him is weird. I think he's a good wrestler, but man, he will get put on his ass because he's just so heavy forward pressure that he just gets timed. And he just lays there. And it's almost one of those things where it looks really bad for a second. And you're like, oh my gosh, he's done. This is horrible. And he's almost like,
all right, let's go.
Let's go. Yes. And then he gets up and he does all the right stuff. So forward pressure, fight, meanness, everythingness. I like Kadir here for the win.
Yeah, the dude's mean and nasty. I was just laughing because I was listening to what people were saying about him. They're like, he's just so reckless and like a little bit, yes, but it's like he's controlling the chaos. Like it's his world of chaos.
It's a little Duplessis-ish, like where he's not in the chaoticness, but like he thrives in that recklessness.
But I think he's more skilled than Dreykus. I don't know. Like
he's more skilled.
No, he really is than the UFC champion.
I know.
But
it's
like
crazy.
He is a guy that can do everything well. You can tell he's like a guy that like sees red, but like an actual UFC trained fighter that just sees red and
he turns red.
Turns red. Oh, he's got skills. He's Gilbert Melendez boy. Like, I think the UFC is doing him a lot of favors here, and this is a good matchup for him. I think he's going to be the first one to finish Fernie. I think that's
what I was going to ask. Does he finish him?
Yeah, I think he'll be the first one because of his style, that forward pressure. And Fernie tends to melt and break a little bit and hasn't given up on himself. But now you're up a weight class against a guy who just kind of, like you said, has hate in his heart. I think Hyder does, or he's just too stupid to know. But either way, I think he's going to finish Fernie.
Yeah. When I first looked at it and I first watched Hyder, I was like, man, is Fernie, can he get the upset or like, because he's actually not bad. He just is so uncomfortable in that cage. And I think Fernie's probably one of those guys I've talked about it a lot lately. In the room, he's probably pretty decent.
Yeah. And he's got skills.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys that, God, he just won't put it together in the room or, in the cage and this and that. And I was looking at him, I was like, man, if he could get on top, or could he take him down? And then I just think Hyder just has enough hate where he's like, no, he's going to get taken down at some point. He's going to be on the bottom, and we're going to go, oh man, oh, Fernie's going to something. And Hyder's just going to get back up and just keep going.
Hyder has really good stand-ups. And he fought that guy that was on him the entire fight. Much better wrestler than Fernie. So
I like it. Next up, we've got Zach Pauga and Bogdan Guskov. Pauga, though, he's minus 123. Guskov is plus 103. Why do they call him Panga? Panga.
Pauga.
Yeah, Pauga. They pronounce with an N in there. And I am looking, and phonetically, there's no N.
I think Islanders are just kind of the lowest form of human beings. Like,
who can stand any of them?
There's a reason that they're off on their own, and we just control everything that they do. You know, they just want to make up their own shitty rules.
Anyway. Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
Give me your thoughts on this. Neither of these guys, I think, are world beaters, and I don't know that Guskov is real. What's your thought on these two?
Actually, that's so hilarious that you say I don't think Guskov's real, because I kept looking at this dude like he's not real, like he's an alien. I like Zach here. Everyone wants to give Zach hate. Okay, Jordan Wright, he pushed him on the fence and went to decision. It's like, whatever. I will probably do that too. Like Jordan Wright, you just want to pin down the guy who's just chaotic and spazzy and all that stuff, right? Whatever. Be hard on him for that. The guy actually has some legitimate skills. He can wrestle. He can strike. He does a lot of things well. He is a little older. I think that Bogdan is, the guy is he's crazy. He's a fraud. Like I don't like. I
know what you mean. Where you're like, he's not a fraud because he has beaten good guys.
He gets hit and he's like, whoa.
There's something that doesn't add up to, wow, that's a really good fighter.
And Zach is just like solid. Like he's nothing.
You know what you're getting,
but he's solid. I like Zach. I added, and then the line moved against me. I'm going to add a little bit more.
Okay. I like that. I like Zach doesn't do anything amazing, but in that last fight against Modestus, he looked good. He had, honestly, I thought he was winning the majority of the fight. Of the 15 minutes, I thought he won most of it. But then when he would get hit and he would get rocked a little bit, and he would just, these bad optics things that were like, okay, that was just enough to sway the judges in the other way. But he times takedowns well. He's got a high guard. He does the right stuff. He mixes up. Like, he knows when he's outmatched and will push to the fence and do that stuff. He kind of knows where he's at as a fighter and does a good job at that. Training at elevation, I think, helps those heavier weight classes. Yeah. Honestly, I think if you're over 170, like, just go train in elevation somewhere and then outlast people. But yeah, I think Guskov, he's got such a low guard, but it doesn't seem like there's a rhyme or reason to it. He's just kind of like there. And
super floppy, weird, like a little noodle alien.
He gets hit and he'll throw stuff weird, and I don't really know what he's good at or isn't good at. I can't get behind him. So
something I can get behind is the new Drake video. See it?
No, I didn't.
Hey.
Now, is that a real video or is that a unreleased video?
No, it's released. It is released. So I saw it.
But it's not an MTV video.
They stopped calling him the 6 god. They're calling him the 8.5 god now.
Oh, man. We've got Jeremiah Wells and Max Griffin, which is perfect.
Yeah, speaking of Hung, yeah.
Griffin is plus 133 and Jeremiah Wells is minus 153. Jeremiah Wells is like, he won't die. This dude is, we always talk about the guys who like will push through and drown people. Jeremiah Wells is that guy who will push through and drown you.
He looks like he should be gassed in a minute and a half, but he never does.
You want to know what I love about Jeremiah Wells is that he's crazy and explosive and goes nuts and he does all that stuff. But when he's not going, he just sits back. Like, he just sits back and moves. And if you get close to him, he swings so fierce that you back up. Like, you don't walk into that trap.
No way.
And then you back up, and then it gives him more and more time to breathe. And he really is able to dictate the fight. Like, he can rest whenever he wants to rest, and he can fire whenever he wants to fire. And then you get a guy like Max Griffin, who's on his bike, kind of lateral movement left and right. So Wells can like inch toward him and take his time when he wants to throw and not. We saw it, I think it was the last fight, the Carlton fight, where he is so far out of range, you shouldn't be able to get near somebody. And when he wants to close the distance, he does. It's like he is jumping 40 feet toward you, throwing, grabbing you, and going. It doesn't matter how good your takedown defense is, you're going to the ground.
But his takedowns are really good.
His takedowns are good. He chains stuff really well. He bundles the legs really well. And then all those Philly boys get you to the ground. And on top, like Carlton Harris.
Carlton Harris.
Yeah. Carlton Harris. Like his one move is that anaconda choke from that position. That was the only way that he would ever be able to beat Jeremiah Wells, and he
did it, of course, at the very end.
But man, I do not see Max Griffin being able to do that. And I think that Max Griffin's lateral movement and his dart punches and the stuff that he does well is fine. But I think, and honestly, Max Griffin is old. He is 38 years old.
So is Jeremiah, though.
No. Jeremiah is 37. Like not 38. Like 38 is ungodly old. 37, you're good. You have the rest of your life in front of you. But 38, it's downhill. So with that huge age discrepancy,
it is
the
huge
physicality of Jeremiah Wells, I'm going Wells all day. Like you can't beat that age.
I can't believe this line is as close as it is. Like I just have always thought of Max Griffin as kind of such a weenie. He's just such a weenie. He's like fine.
We need to go back and check the interwebs and see when weenie was last spoken with a straight face, as if we didn't just say weenie.
Well, last night when I was talking about the Drake video. No, he's just such a weenie. I always kind of thought that to me, he's like a really athletic guy that kind of like has a rudimentary understanding of like how to fight, but like loses a lot of time in positions. And like you said, I think Jeremiah can dictate the whole course of the fight. Like I remember high school wrestling, right? You used to see the guys like on the other side of the mat that were all jacked and shredded and six packed. And before you even stepped on the mat, you were like, oh shit. Like, how am I going to wrestle?
How's this going to go?
Which is funny because half the state champions, like were just flat bodied. They weren't even super jacked. Like look at Jason Nolf, like from Penn State, like the most average looking white guy in the world. And he wrestles amazing. Right. But I think there is something mentally to that physicality. You see a guy like Jeremiah and then
when Jeremiah's not all show. Like he
swings hammers.
People, well, not only swings hard, he grabs you and people's bodies move.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's doing it for sure. And you're right. I think that dictates the whole pace. Like that is putting a layer between Jeremiah and anybody else. Like it's hard to enter that danger zone without like feeling confident that you're going to win this exchange. And then his wrestling, I mean, a lot of people have pointed to Max's takedown defense, which is fine. Tim Means got him down, and Jeremiah is like, it's a different kind of takedown. It is a crazy blast double right into the mat, explosive. And then the other big difference too is he's got good top control. I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt with the Philly boys who have the best jiu-jitsu. I mean, he is very, very, very solid. I like Wells a lot in this matchup.
Yeah, the line being close in this. It's funny, the lines are wide in some of them and they're close in some of the other ones. All right, next up we have Devin Clark and Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio is plus 195. Devin Clark's minus 230. This is one of those fights that I did not tape at all. And I started looking at their records. And then I realized that Devin Clark is one of those guys who's so athletic and so talented and does so much stuff awesome and then just finds a way to lose from
every
dumb
time.
Shit. And then Prachnio is not bad and is actually decent and just does not fight to win. The William Knight fight, he just like stood there and like did slightly more than Knight for 15 minutes. And I was like, I am not wasting my life looking at these two guys. Like I know Devin, like I think I like Devin Clark. You're a guy. Again, you guys take this with a grain of salt because I didn't watch film. I was going to, and I absolutely refused to watch film but Clark actually tries to win, whereas Prachnio just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
And I got to lean Clark just via trying to win versus Prachnio. If Prachnio had like KO power or like really good guillotines or something, I'd say, all right, let's go Prachnio. But Clark just pressing and going and being apish for 15 minutes. I don't know that Prachnio has this like killer move that is going to set Clark down. So I got to go Clark on this, but gosh, I could not give two fucks about this.
I mean, Clark has all the physical. I've said that for like years. Like physically, he's got all the abilities. He can wrestle his ass off. He's got good striking, good power. Like, and then he just finds ways to lose. But I think that Prachnio is not dangerous enough to like make him pay for it. And the fight's going to get dictated wherever Clark wants it to get dictated. So, I mean, I got Devin Clark. I've already played him. I mean, the number keeps climbing, but I like him a lot here.
Okay. We've got Loma and Bruna Brasil. Loma is minus 280. Bruna is plus 240. Who do you have here in this fight?
This is a tough one. I like both of these girls a lot. Bruna Brasil, she kind of got a bad rep from the Denise Gomez fight. And Gomez is a very different challenge than Loma is, right? Loma's kind of a volume striker. She has really good counters and great Muay Thai, whereas Denise like in your face, like I'm going to swing hammers at you. You know, on Contender Series, Bruna Brasil looked amazing. You know, she hit the head kick. She's got great lateral movement. She kind of is like that, almost like karate, like lunging in style and then back out, lunging in. And honestly, even her takedown defense looked good. She uses judo a lot, which is really rare for MMA to use like wizard throws and hip tosses only to come up and defend takedowns, which I like a lot. But I think honestly, overall, Loma is a really good MMA fighter. Her only knock, I would say, is that she's so small. But over the course of time, a 15-minute fight, you know, Bruna Brasil is having a pretty close fight with Shayna Bannon, who is horrible. Loma is leagues above that. I got to go Loma. You know, I don't love the price here, just size discrepancy, and even the style of fight, right? That lateral movement and kind of blitzing in and out. But I think Loma's a better fighter. I'm going to take her here.
I think this is one of the more evenly matched competitive fights that matter on this card.
Yeah.
Because both of them win, and these are both good fighters. But, you know, ranking, I don't know what each of them are ranked, but they'll get a push, the winner. A lot of the rest of this card, I think, is like, I mean, we've got Ihor Potieria and Robert Bryczek. Like, they're not getting a push. They're on the roster, and they're like, all right, we got to do something with these guys. But either these win and they're getting the push. But Loma, the thing with her is you've got to beat her. And like, you're not going to just come in and touch. Like, if you're going to just touch Loma on the outside, you better be really, really good at touching her. Who's the girl that just fought last week, beat Vivi?
Natalia Silva.
Silva. Like that, okay. She can like touch and pepper and move and throw and go because she's so good at it. But otherwise, you better grab Loma and you better throw her to the ground and you better be more physical than her and able to do that for 15 minutes. And I don't know that Bruna Brasil is that girl. And Loma has those Muay Thai trips that she uses and good knees and the elbows and the clinch. It's like you're going to have to really beat her. And I don't know that Bruna Brasil is going to be. Loma's not screwing up and not going to fall into anything. And I think she's just going to be so durable and so hard to beat. And she's going to win those moments. So I like Loma.
Friend
here.
of Dwayne The Rock Johnson as well.
You know,
can't lose.
Any friend of Dwayne's is a friend of ours.
All right. In our hearts.
Bolaji? Okay.
Okay. No, I'm saying okay.
Okay.
This is a who's on first bet. I don't play games.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, okay. Bolaji okay, is minus 305. On here, it still says Damir Hadzovic.
Okay, wait,
but it's not correct.
Sorry, I'm not meaning to not pay attention. I'm busting down openers on BFL.
It's Timothy Cuamba.
Okay.
So Timothy Cuamba got put on today, or yesterday got put up here. I was still looking at Damir fight, but I did look at some Timothy tape today. Oki is
it's minus 250 for Oki now and plus 210 for Cuamba.
Okay.
Oki or okay?
Okay. Oki is decent. I like him. I think you were we were talking about him and you were talking about how he just waits and to pull and to fire.
Yeah.
He does, but I actually really like how he does it is he creates the counter. A lot of people just like wait and they want to like pull and fire and they're waiting to go, but he doesn't do that. He teeters in and out and he uses that jab to draw you into it. So he jabs and pulls and then jabs and pulls. And then he's waiting for the counter. If you don't throw it, he keeps doing it. And then when you do, he jabs and pulls and then counters over the top. He's got really good long range punches. And when he throws 2, 3, 4 punches, they're long and straight. And I like him. he's got a heavy sprawl, heavy hips, nothing amazing in terms of like technical abilities with his wrestling, but he does the right stuff on the initial stop on stuff. What I've seen of Cuamba is that first of all, he's a 45er coming up to 55 on short notice. So that alone, I would assume this is going to be a David Onama, Mason Jones situation.
Where he's really good, but just not going to have the size.
Garrett Armfield when he fought Onama. He's good. He's going to look great. And then about halfway through round 2 or right after the start of round 2, he's just undersized, underconditioned, not ready for it, and he's going to fade out and go. And I think he'll probably do decent at 145. But even at 45, I don't think he's huge. I think he's fast. I really like his speed. He does everything well, but I think he's just going to be undersized and outmatched and short noticed. And I mean, I think he just fought last week on Tough Enough or whatever it was. So,
yeah, knocked out Michael Stack.
Yeah, but even that, man, 2 fights, 2 weeks, the adrenaline. I think he's going to have a really good showing and lose. And then he'll have a decent career at 45, depending on the
talented.
matchups.
I like him a lot. Yeah, he's good. On Contender Series, I had him. He's good. I got Oki, same thing. He's just too fast, athletic, big. I actually think this matchup is easier for him than the last matchup. Because Demir will put stuff together and he will stay in your face and kind of keep those heavy combinations, just kind of, I'm here. Cuamba is a little bit more like seeing, feeling, kind of doing that same thing. And I think Oki's just a little bit faster, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. And that will favor Oki in this matchup.
Yeah, I think so. I think his original matchup would have been, I think he still was actually going to win.
Yeah.
But I think that matchup, somebody just in your face going vet is harder for him to deal with.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Trevin Giles at plus 215 and Carlos Prates at minus 255. And I'm going to let you go on this first. But before I do, like, if you look at the guys Trevin Giles has beaten, he beat
a lot, yeah.
Dolides. He beat Ryan Spann. He beat Brendan Allen. He had a good fight against the current middleweight champ before he got caught. It's so weird to see that. Now, tell us your breakdown of this fight.
And it is. And he hangs good. He's got a great jab. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. Like even the Preston Parsons fight, his overall MMA is good. Just unfortunately in this fight, he's going to get knocked out. And that's the sad truth of it. I could have made a case for Giles here with the grappling, but you never really seen him put together a full 15 minutes of just grappling. Even in the Parsons fight, it was striking from range, waiting till he got a little bit tired and counter grappling, not offensively going, right? He's pretty content to stay on the outside and throw that, hands low jab and move his head and do that kind of stuff, which is awesome, except for it seems like his chin is gone now. And
especially at 170.
And at 170. And now you have the best striker that he's fought in a long time. And the thing that was going to scare me is, okay, Prates is going to play on his back. And he does sometimes. But you watch his Contender Series fight, he got taken down. And right away, he's getting up. He's, trying to wall sit, get back up. And then he actually hit that beautiful sweep and came up to the top. Yep, it's kind of like your little sweep. Good. He's got really good positional awareness in jiu-jitsu. He doesn't look lost to me on the ground. He looks fine. He looks like he knows what he's doing. And then standing on the feet, I mean, the dude's just mean. Like that body kick he throws it with zero regard. Like he's going to break somebody's forearm one day. Maybe in this fight, he'll break somebody's forearm. He does stick his chin out a little bit, but he's Brazilian. I mean, those people don't really care. They've been hit by their parents much worse. What's Trevin Giles going to do to this guy? So, me and Big Bird, we already put in a play. We were kind of chatting about it. We're like, let's see if we can move this line. And he put $2,000, I put $3,000, and I had to play on it because DraftKings opened him as an even money. So I put 1,000 on him then too. So I have $4,000 riding on him at minus 200 and at even money. And I like that play.
You already said it. I mean, there's 100% a case for him to get a takedown and ride out rounds on the back. Because the hell's Prates will play on his back. His jiu-jitsu is actually good.
It's good.
It's actually good. He attacks stuff well. He'll attack. Did you see his fight? I I think, was it in one when he lost a decision to the Russian? To the
Yeah,
back?
and in the very last, he took the dude's back.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty slick.
But that whole fight, he has a Russian on top of him, and he's throwing arm bars that are legit close, then attacking heel hooks, leg locks going up. He's actually has really good jiu-jitsu. Unfortunately for MMA, a lot of it is play off your back jiu-jitsu. But as long as he doesn't do that too much, like, I don't know how he doesn't win. He's got a beautiful straight left, and he floats his hands. He's like really loose. Nothing is loaded. Nothing is labored. Good jab, good left kick. But man, that straight left of his is
nasty,
sharp. And I think if Giles was a finisher, all right, maybe he could get a takedown and get a submission.
But he's a slick stylist.
And his last 2 wins are over Preston Parsons, which was very close, completely different stylistic, and Orion Kosi. And these are close decisions, and he's getting knocked out by guys who he can't finish when he's.
And I think this is the best striker he's got in front of him out of any.
I think so. So I like Prates here. If you want, like, as the fight is going, a Giles decision, small bet, if it's like, wow, it's so easy. I'm not saying do it, but I'm saying that if you're like on Giles, go Giles decision. Don't go Giles. Like, if you just love
Even
it. But
that, I don't know.
I don't see how he doesn't get chinned here at some point.
Yeah.
We are moving along. Rodolfo Vieira and Armin Petrosyan. Rodolfo is -119. Armin is -101. Armin does a lot well-ish. I mean, he just is busy.
Yeah.
Motherfucker's just busy. Like, he just isn't, he's not great anywhere, and they call him some kickboxer and stuff. And
no, actually, there's 2 Armin Petrosyans, and one is like a legendary kickboxer.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's him, and it gets mixed up a lot. He does have some kickboxing experience, but that Armin Petrosyan that everyone
the real
mentions,
Petrosyan
it's not him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the real Petrosyan's a K1 Max guy, a 55 or Southpaw 55.
Yeah.
One of the slickest fighters ever, if you don't know. But they always talk about this Armin as having this amazing kickboxing experience. I'm like,
it's fine. It's good.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. He's busy. He does stuff. He does all the right stuff in MMA. And then Rodolfo, you kind of are like, I don't know, there's good stuff with him. There's bad stuff with him. He does get chinned. But, man, he got chinned by Cody Brundage. Brundage just swings massive, wild craziness. And he caught him. And, man, but Rodolfo's chain grappling and wrestling to get that back to the ground and doing it. And then you watch Petrosyan against Kyle Bahalo, where early Kyle is like blast doubling him, and it's a lot of energy. And you're like, oh, man, if Rodolfo has to do that, that's not going to be good for his gas tank, blah, blah, blah. Then in round 2, Kyle like looks at Petrosyan's legs and he falls over. And you're like, oh, that's different. And I see, man, that Rodolfo pressure, if Petrosyan was like more wild and through to kill or had better takedown defense, I could say, all right, let's do this. But I think Rodolfo on top of you is going to, I think Rodolfo by submission. He's managed his gas tank. He's not adrenaline himself out.
And he's not completely outmatched on the feet either.
He's not bad. He understands his distance and his range. And
he actually has probably better distance than a lot of guys and a good jab.
And he does. And he moves in and out, and he has that double. And he's not just gurring it. He's chaining it. Man, I like Rodolfo for the win, and I like the prop on Rodolfo by sub.
Okay, say no more. I'm right there with you.
Okay. Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. Flowers is +119. Michael Johnson's -139.
Oh, good God. I played the DraftKings opener on this one too at like Michael Johnson +154. And now, the line has flipped and Michael Johnson's the favorite. Man, I couldn't feel less confident about that. It seems like Flowers weirdly has this weird star power to him. Even though he's not like entirely skilled, he's almost got that Trevor Peak in him. Like, just like not that good, but like.
What a good analogy.
Yeah. I just thought of that. That's perfect. I'll be all week.
Yeah.
I think Johnson's going to outclass him until he just doesn't. And Flowers is going to somehow find a way. He fought Jake Matthews in his, first UFC fight.
And looked decent in moments.
And had moments.
And it was short. I think it was short notice, right?
That's like kind of crazy. Like that's a UFC vet. And I get Michael Johnson is too, but now he's getting flatlined when the same win that knocked over Petrosyan's knocking out Michael Johnson as well. So I'm going to hedge out. I don't know a winner in this fight. I think it's tough on both sides, and there's a case to be made for both. My gut tells me, my heart wants Michael Johnson. My gut tells me it's going to be a Darius Flowers fight.
It's funny you say that. I thought I was going to be alone on a hill over here because I think Michael Johnson, first of all, even who did he fight last? Diego Ferreira.
Yeah.
His hands are so fast. Holy shit.
God, he's good.
Dude. And Michael Johnson is one of the few people left in the world that actually sprawls to defend a takedown instead of like whizzing, floating the hips, going to the cage, anchoring. Like, dude just sprawls and is back up and is like, let's fight. It's amazing. He's got good cardio. He's so fast. He's so athletic. And he died against Diego in a fight that he was absolutely winning, I think, every second of the fight until he got flatlined.
Yeah.
And I could see that playing out here where Flowers, I think he's like 12-6 or something like that. A lot of his early fights are at like 185. And
he was fat and didn't care.
Yeah, he just showed up. And now he's got this like weird style where he's okay just rolling and going in and just ripping and swinging. He's a good wrestler. He trains with Bilal. He does the right, like, I think he's going to lose every second of the fight until he wins. And, Johnson, you just can't trust first of all, Johnson's record in the UFC alone is 13 wins and 15 losses. How wild is that?
Yeah, but you got cut, son of a bitch.
15 UFC losses. But I like Johnson. I think he's on borrowed time. And I think eventually that chin and stuff is just going to catch up to him.
It's unfortunate. I like Michael.
Yeah. Brad Tavares, plus 195. Gregory Rodrigues, minus 230.
This is another weird one where I think people are really critical of Tavares for the Weidman fight. And then, I get it. Like, okay, Weidman his leg was compromised, but people go so over the top with the criticism. It's like, he still had to pay attention to Weidman's takedowns because at any point, if Weidman got him down, that's tough sledding for him. And now he's going to lose the round, right? So the threat of the takedown and having to defend that the entire time, it opens up those overhands. That's the whole point of why we fake takedowns, throw overhands to shoot takedowns and mixing it up. And I still thought he fought really composed and really good and defended everything really well. This is a tough one for me. I really don't know where to go with this one. And this is why I just had trouble with tape because I'm like, I could do all the tape in the world and it's not really going to help me that much here. Like
on this whole card, this whole card, I mean, a lot of it is just a coin toss. Like these guys are like the Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. When we talked about Michael Johnson is so much better than Darius. It's insane. There's a good chance he gets chinned. So, I mean, it's like,
yeah. And this fight's the same, right? Rodrigues, his thing the whole time is he's a big, powerful striker, gets exhausted. Honestly, I think he's a bit slow sometimes in his defense. His offense is fast and pinpoint, but he's a bit slow in his defense. And Tavares is always just kind of like chilling and calm, cool, collected. I think he hits hard. I know he doesn't have a ton of knockout finishes, but I don't know where to go with this fight. Is RoboCop going to try to take him down? Good luck with that. And then if he does, I mean, most people just stand right back up on RoboCop anyways. Does RoboCop get tired? People think that, Robo is going to go out and just KO him early. I don't really see that either. I don't know. I guess RoboCop has probably a little more firepower at this point. So I would lean that direction, but I don't feel good about that either.
The thing with this is RoboCop, he's really good at long range. He has a beautiful jab and a cross, and he strings the two of those together. Rarely throws a hook at the end of it on his own accord. Where he loses a lot is in the exchanges when people are close and in a firefight. And it's weird though, because he's the one that presses and he's the one that closes the range for the people to swing on. Yeah. He does not keep his range at all. And if you watch, I think almost every time we've ever seen him rock, drop, knock out anything is left hooks or left hands. So when he fights southpaws, it's short left hands or overhands. And when he fights orthodox fighters, it's left hooks. When he gets in these exchanges, that right hand drops so low. In his stance, he stands, I'm kind of the same way in the sense of build. I have such long arms for my frame so that if I stand square like RoboCop does, there is so much like head like from head to shoulders and go, like you've got to stand more narrow. So your lead shoulder is going to protect. And then you're a little bit more angled. You tuck your chin and then this right hand is up a little bit higher. But if I square up and try to fight like this, there's triangles. Like, okay, so my body is open. There's big looping positions here. There's so much. And to eat punches square like that, you do not have the ability to eat those same punches as you do when you're narrow. And that really is going to mess you up. And so with RoboCop, I love his outside range. The way that he fights is going to kill him. It's absolutely going to kill him.
Yeah.
And, with that though, Tavares doesn't have an amazing left hook. And Tavares does all of the right stuff. You watch him right off the bat, Tavares looks good.
Yeah.
His 1-2s, his move, he is good. His takedown defense, everything is good. When he gets pressured, he crumbles. He cannot handle forward pressure. And we saw that with the Weidman fight. We saw that with the Bruno Silva fight.
Yeah.
And it's when people come at him that he does not do well. And he's such a decision guy that I don't think he's going to chin RoboCop. And so I could see this fight being very similar to the Armin Petrosyan fight with RoboCop, where like RoboCop lands the bigger punches, Petrosyan lands a lot of volume, but I think RoboCop is going to have more bigger moments than Tavares will in this fight. And so I'm going RoboCop here. If there's any sort of like threat of a finish out of Tavares, I would go, all right, give me it. I'm in.
It's crazy that he doesn't, because he looks like he's powerful and can hit hard.
And honestly, his reach, I was looking at the reach. It's not a huge discrepancy, but Tavares,
That's crazy. He looks like he got dinosaur arms.
Well, he does, but he has the reach in boxing. They go armpit to knuckle, which is way more realistic reach
because they go across your chest.
Yes, in MMA we go fingertip to fingertip, and Tavares' shoulders are as wide as a house, but his little T-Rex arms.
He got my body.
Yes, and so I don't think all of that stuff adding up. I don't think he's going to finish RoboCop. I think RoboCop's punches on the outside are good. I'm going RoboCop here.
All right. What's up next?
People's main event. Ihor Potieria versus Robert Bryczek. Potieria is plus 170 and Bryczek is minus 195. Ihor is another guy who has lost a lot of UFC fights and they keep bringing him back. And this is a short notice fight.
At 185.
Yes. And so, man, if you watch Potieria in his last fight, he actually looked good.
He looked good.
He's fast. The cornrows did him well. Usually when people go cornrows, that's their death sentence.
Really?
They look bad. Go watch old Evan Tanner, guys. Evan Tanner was amazing. He was on the top of his game. You could not defeat him.
He walked out to Eminem and had cornrows.
Death curse. Just cursed. He's done. You cannot win. If you are successful and then you go cornrows, we're done. That's it.
But if you get successful with cornrows.
Yeah, and he was unsuccessful without the cornrows. And then he went cornrow, and that was a wrap. Like, it was like, these are different. I mean, it's like the voodoo touch. He looked really good. Southpaw. He's fast as shit. Didn't even blow himself out until he got whatever the hell his name is, Frankenstein, hurt.
On his deathbed, yeah.
And then he just went too big and adrenaline himself out, and that was that. If Ihor was originally slated for this fight and had a camp and had this and that, I might pick him here.
Yeah.
But being on short notice and considering the situation that he's in, one, I don't think, and I could be butchering this. I butcher every name, so of course I'm butchering it.
Yeah.
Bryczek, I don't think he's amazing, but he does the right stuff.
He's not bad.
He doesn't do anything bad. Honestly, he looks like a classically trained European style boxer.
Yep.
Like, he knows how to boxing style box, not learning to punch with kicking, but he actually knows how to box. His hands are up. He does the right stuff. Beautiful jab. And when he starts firing 1-2s down, his best punch is his right hand, and he will double it up. That right hand is good. He does all the right stuff. He doesn't look like he gasses. From what I've seen, I really like him. He doesn't check kicks to save his fucking life. He has no idea what a kick is. He's even narrow stance which normally would hurt him, but Ihor is a southpaw.
So it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter. And honestly, it almost helps him because he can really narrow up. Exactly. So considering everything we know about Ihor and his gas tank and the short notice, and then what we've seen with Robert, I'm going to price check. It looks good. You got to go with the guy who is slated to fight, who doesn't do a bunch of dumb shit. I like him.
I think I like him a lot here. Yeah. I think this is maybe one of the more free squares on the card. And I don't think it's actually going to go down as people think, right? The line is set at a round and a half, and it's huge money for the under. I actually think this could go over because Ihor's chin looked much better in the last fight. He looked like he was actually in there trying, not just giving up.
Mm-hmm. He didn't look panicked.
No, and this guy, how you say Bryczek?
Something.
Whatever.
I don't know. Well, you're asking me how to pronounce it.
Yeah, he's a pretty educated striker. You can see he doesn't check leg kicks, but he does do the like get back, like move his leg out of the way kind of thing every so often. And he feints and he moves. He does a lot of stuff well. And I don't think that he's got a bunch of first round knockouts in a row. I think he's just placing it right on the button on these guys. But I don't think he necessarily goes for the kill like right off the bat. He's just seeing, analyzing, and throwing good punches. And, you know, the southpaw, I think, could delay that process a little bit. And Ihor had a good chin and has some firepower back. So I think he's going to take some time to work his way in. Ihor still seems really crazy to me. So it's almost like Jordan Wright. Like, we have to contain this guy for a second. And then once we settle into the fight, we'll be okay. I kind of like a little bit of an over here.
I don't hate that. And especially because Bryczek is so relaxed and just taking his time and placing those punches that I don't think it's going to be a Ihor swinging and gasses himself out and then gets beat, or Bryczek going out and like hurting him and then going in for the kill. I think it's going to be a clean punch.
Yeah.
And then it'll be either he's knocked out, or it's like a TKO.
I'm waiting for the FanDuel Bryczek round 2-3 KO. That'll be juicy.
I like it. I don't hate it. Moving up, Dan Ige, Andre Fili. Ige is -170. Andre Fili is +145. Am I up or are you up?
You go. This is another one. I didn't study this one at all, and I have zero opinion on this one.
Okay. So Fili looked good in his last fight, but he fought a statue. Who was it that he fought? Knocked him out, the Brazilian kid that we like that knocked out Mike Trizoni.
Almeida.
Yeah.
Almeida.
I think that was him. Yeah. And he just didn't, I think that was him. Jeez.
Yeah, Lucas Almeida.
Yeah. He was just so stiff and just wasn't moving at all. He didn't look good. Like, I don't know if it was a bad weight cut or what, but Almeida looked
That dude's
bad.
had 2 really bad performances in a row.
Yeah. And Fili Fili's best thing, and he actually caught him with like just a short little piston punch up the middle. It wasn't even a real thing. Bam. It just came out. But my favorite thing about Fili is his head kicks and middle kicks. And whatever his back stance is, he'll throw this power side. So he'll switch southpaw, throw his left head kick, switch orthodox for his left head kick. And he likes to switch stances based on the opposite stance of where you are. If you're orthodox, he's going southpaw. You're southpaw, he's going orthodox to throw those head kicks. I like it. I think his wrestling is I think it's better than people give it credit for.
It's underappreciated.
Yeah, and he doesn't use it much, but when he does use it, he times it well, and he's big and long and gangly and does stuff well. The thing with him is that there's so much space in his punches and his movements, and he gets so like, watch him throw a punch or a kick and his hands flare and float out so much, and he's so off balance and so wide. And Ige is just so fundamentally sound. He is just always in position. And I'm not, every Ige fight I talk about how his wrestling's overrated how he's, people ride his back out and this and that. But watch the Bryce Mitchell fight. He is using like second and third effort moves to get the back and drag him down and get it. Where I don't know that Fili is going to do that. Fili's a blast doubler. And even if he does get him down, I think Ige hits his butt, scoots away, pops back up.
Yeah.
They're very different grappling styles. Zombie, we're like, hey, take him down, take his back.
He's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Ige is just so calculated. He touches the body well. The only thing that worries me is those head middle kicks with Ige being so much shorter, getting hit on his way in. But I think Ige is just so calculated and takes his time and he's got a good left hook. And I think eventually that body work and the left hook are going to find their mark. And he either levels Fili or he does enough to win a decision by the moments. But he's just so fundamentally sound with his striking. And sometimes it's boring. You watch him and Nate Landwehr.
Yeah.
And
expecting a war.
Expecting a war. And it was just boring and boring and boring. But eventually, eventually he found it and he cracked him, but he was patient and he did all the right stuff. And I like Ige here. Yeah, that's it. Main event time, boys and girls. Main event time. If you're not on the Patreon, do it. Sign up. You killed it last week. You really did. Yeah, a lot of people made a lot of money.
Yeah, how come I wasn't on the list? I called you know what's funny? I said Luana Carolina is like prime Anderson Silva.
Oh, you got hate for that.
People ran with that comment, but I was just cracking up. And then I'm watching the fight, and somehow she ended up being my biggest live bet of the entire day.
And you want to know what's funny is I was watching that and watching her glide away from some punches, and I was like,
I see it.
Yeah, it's not that far. I mean, hey, good movement. Like I don't know if I was agreeing with it, but I was seeing it in the moment, and I was like,
I see where he's going.
I see where you're going with that.
I get it.
Somebody else is yelling at me for Builder on the comments, like, oh, Builder's gonna kill him. You guys don't even know. And I'm like, one of what's funny is you guys love to talk shit about how dumb we are on the comments, and you love to rub it in our face if we get something wrong, which
of course
we do. But you never come back when you're wrong. Like.
No, actually, I do have to give respect to the one guy.
A couple.
This one guy, he commented, "You guys are so stupid. You guys are retarded. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. You're complete trash." Like went on and on and on for like 3 or 4 comments, and would respond to people saying how bad we were. Whoever we picked ended up winning, and he went back and edited each comment and was like, man, I totally agree with what they're saying. As a matter of fact, and then he like put like round 2 KO because that's what ended up happening, and it cracked me up. So I say fair play. That was nice.
We'll get every once in a while. We get 1 out of 100 comments like that.
You come in with that much vitriol on a free YouTube video, like and you watch it every week. It's just funny. We know it's not real. Yeah, so it is what it is.
Man, sign up, do it. You won't be sad.
Oh, yeah. Guys, sign up for the Patreon, Discord, all that good stuff. Last week was awesome. So we had bare knuckle. I put Palomino on the very last line, and he ended up getting destroyed. But everything else swept. That was awesome. Boxing, we were pretty heavy on my boy Big Stepa. Amazing. Knocked the dude out with body shots. Incredible. We got $7 worth of value on that. I bet him at minus 280 and tipped it, and then he closed at minus 1,000. So that was awesome. And then the knockout, like I tipped him minus 105, and I think it ended up minus 150 or something. So great, knocked it out, super easy. Bare knuckle almost swept. This week we have LFA in Phoenix, which if you guys have been with us for a few years now, LFA Phoenix is always a nice little money grab. Yep. This one might be a little tougher, but it'll be good. And then bare knuckle is back again next week. Bare knuckle makes you go, why do we bet anything else? Yep. Because when it goes good, and usually I put together a good core, it goes really, really, really good. And so we have a lot of action in the next few weeks.
We actually had some bare knuckle lines that they pulled. Tell us about that before we get in the main event. This was dumb.
Yeah, this is really frustrating. And I've been back and forth. I don't know if I've ever told this story, but when I was cornering Vanessa, I actually flew out to Colorado the night before the weigh-ins. And I flew to Colorado and I put in $30,000 into BetMGM in Colorado because at the time each MGM was like separate. And then they said that they were no longer doing business with me and cut my account off. So I had to go to the gaming commission. I had profited about 25,000, right? I put in 30, profited 25. So they owed me 55K. And I had to go to the gaming commission and force their hand to pay me out. And they still, blocked my account, whatever, right? So this time Betway, they originated bare knuckle lines, which is crazy, right? Because King Bet Online usually does all the originating of all the lines. They make everything, sharpest book by far. So Betway originated their own lines. Okay, right away, bare knuckle King. I understood where we were going with this, and I started betting. They stopped letting me get action down. Right? They say there's an error on your account. So my girlfriend, she put some money in and bet on these lines. I told a couple other people to bet on these lines. And then they immediately, the next day, they voided the lines. Everything. and then reopened the lines at much worse odds. And we ended up winning. Would have paid 1,000 to pay 5K easily, all first round knockouts, punches, whatever. So I messaged the gaming commission and I just said, hey, look, the Betway in Canada paid out on those same odds. Betway Canada paid out on the same odds. Bare knuckle, the odds they were showing were the odds that were released by Betway. And then Betway says they are unjust lines, voided everything. But that's what's shown on the program, that Betway in Canada paid it out, but they're going to void them and then reopen them to make you get worse lines. It just feels unfair. So, I don't know if there's anything I can do now, but I still have been trying to reach out to the gaming commission.
Random note on I don't know why I looked into this recently, but for all these online casinos, so they're not giving, so here's the thing. So when sports betting and all this stuff became legal, people were trying to get gaming licenses, and they weren't giving out gaming licenses. Or like, no, these things are done. And so then the Native American casinos, which most in the country are Native American land casinos, like, no, we're not allowing new licenses or anything. Mm-hmm. So like Betway, if Betway is in Arizona and Betway is in California, I say Betway is in Colorado, they actually have to have a different license from an actual brick and mortar casino.
Yeah.
For every online book that there is, they're actually licensed on a brick and mortar casino in the state. So Betway has to be licensed. I think it's an Agui, whatever.
Yeah, that's why it was kind of sweet, because I was doing this thing for a while with MGM, and I actually met an employee of MGM, and they said that this was changing, and this was like end of 2022, maybe early 2023 that they told me this. But basically, because of that, every MGM is different, right? So if my account's limited on MGM Arizona, I can go to Colorado and I have a brand new MGM account. I flew to Austria, right? And I had a layover in New Jersey. I opened up a brand new BetMGM account. They give you the $1,000 risk-free bet, and I threw it down on WNBA and I won, right? So every jurisdiction you can go and open up a brand new account. Now what they say, and I don't know if you guys can tell me in the comments if this is true or not, now they say BetMGM is one. Like DraftKings, anywhere you go, it's the same DraftKings.
I bet you it's still one account, but I bet you they still have to be licensed separately to a brick and mortar casino in each state, because that's the federal law.
Yes, I understand that, but like if your account's limited, it's limited. Yeah.
Because DraftKings, the account will be collective. But
it hasn't before. Even in Arizona, it's different. So, we have the MGM casino here in Arizona. If you go there, you can't use your regular MGM app. You have to use their special app for that casino. Even though they're both MGM Arizona, it's two different ones. So even though I'm limited on this one, I can go there and still have my way. So interesting.
Main event, Jack Hermansson, plus 215, Joseph Pyfer, minus 255. Thoughts?
I think Big Dick Joe. I mean, no doubt about it. No, I can see the arguments for him being gassy, but he fights very composed, very clean. He's got big power. It's very clear the UFC wants to push him and really is rooting for his success. I like Jack Hermansson a lot. He's definitely a volume guy, a grappling guy, but I think that Pyfer has the wrestling to nullify and counter it. And I think he's got big power to keep Hermansson off of him. There's not much to break down here. I like Pyfer.
Yeah, Hermansson is funny because he's a good wrestler and he's got that good wrestling background. His striking is fine. It's fine, but he does a really good job. I mean, we saw it with the Chris Curtis fight, just touching and moving. And he's educated and he's smart about it. The difference though is Pyfer is a lot taller than a guy like Chris Curtis, and he's got a bigger range and a bigger reach. The gas tank of Joe does worry me if it hits
round 3, 4, 5.
I think if this hits round 4, I think this is a Hermansson fight. But I think Pyfer's power, and again, this is a guy who you could just tell when people have boxed with boxers versus boxed in MMA. Pyfer looks like he has boxed with boxers coming up, the way he moves. He does stuff well. And I think the power of him, but I think the range, I think the reach of him, he's not going to be at such a disadvantage.
Tall sip of water.
Yeah, he is. And then Hermansson's wrestling is great, but Pyfer's got the cage wrestling. It's the cage wrestling that people don't get. And honestly, cage wrestling beats wrestling a lot when you really know how to cage wrestle. You see these guys like Bilal Muhammad, Sean Brady. These guys just know how to fucking cage wrestle, and it's unbelievable.
Yep.
And I think Pyfer's one of those guys. So I think Pyfer's the truth. I like Pyfer inside 3. Man, it goes to 4 and 5 though.
Tough.
Gosh, I really would. It's one of those things you got to look at the lines to hedge it and stuff. But a hedge on Hermansson decision is not a bad one. So short main event breakdowns are always short. They're always like.
I hate main events.
Yeah,
I honestly just hate betting the UFC in general. It's so funny. Someone last week was like, yeah, usually I follow Santino's UFC picks because Brandon's suck and they always lose. And I was kind of like, yeah, because I give the least attention to the UFC.
No, it was the opposite. Somebody was like,
no, but this week it was the opposite, like
yeah.
where they bet all your stuff and
I lost. Yeah, I didn't.
And I hit everything.
Did not do great.
It's just sometimes I just give not the least attention, but I think that UFC is the hardest
value. It's hardest to read.
Yeah, it's just the most competitive. You have 2 really good guys or girls, and it goes a lot of different ways.
I feel like even when we started doing this podcast a couple of years ago, it wasn't that way. It was much more
clear.
The opening fight up until about the 6th fight was kind of like, man, you could really, it was almost free pickings.
Yeah.
And then as the card went up, it got harder and harder to call. And I think it's that way on the big pay-per-views. I think the big pay-per-views are still that way, but these kind of fight night cards were
competitive. They're seeing who can be their stars.
Well, a lot of these are throwaway fights to like, here's an up and coming guy versus an ultra vet. It's a lot of them are the Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers ones where you have these guys who are really good, but they're chinny or stuff like that. So it's definitely much harder to call than a lot of the regional stuff where there's just huge, massive, discrepancies in skill level. So that's it. That's what we got for you guys. That's the podcast.
All right, go fuck yourself.
We're out.